This is Moments with Foo with James Foo Torres, better known as Foo, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet, hear their stories, and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success, and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Moments with Foo is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Foo.
Hello and welcome to Moments with Foo. I'm your host, James Foo Torres, but you can call me Foo. Hence the name of the podcast. And today I have the founder of Vouris, Kyle Vamvouris. And I'm going to let him tell you more about that. But first, Kyle, how are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks so much for having me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun. We talked a little bit prior, and I think this is going to be something really good. So to kick things off, can you give the audience a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I run a company called Vouris. Traditionally, before in my career, I ran inside sales teams for a lot of software companies. So most of my background is running teams that sell software to other businesses, so B2B SaaS companies primarily. And now my organization works with usually earlier stage companies that sell business to business, and we help them build a repeatable sales process. So everything from hiring and putting systems in place to help have a consistent pipeline being generated by your sales team.
Awesome. I like it. You came from like, okay, I'm doing sales. I mastered this. I want to take control of my life. Let me just do it myself. And that way I can have more control. And you seem to not, just do sales and that's it. It's more like the systems, the training, the hiring, the everything. So I really like that.
Well, I think it's a great way to get into entrepreneurship for anybody. Is you should learn a skill first. And then as you've developed a certain level of expertise and you understand how these things work, then you can start teaching other people how to do it. And that's a very easy way to get out of working a traditional job and start working for yourself.
So what I'm getting is that obviously, like, I agree with that. Learn a high income skill, right? And then go and after you feel like, okay, I have the knowledge, and then I want to take the journey. You already have a high income skill and you build around that. So in on that note, so like your main focus is to come to companies and then like kind of like restructure everything, or what? How would you call like that main focus that you go into a company and do?
So it depends. So some companies are building a sales team for the very first time, and we'll come in, we help them figure out what type of salespeople to hire, who should you be targeting if you're doing cold outreach, or how you should be managing your inbound leads, and what should your sales team look like? Should you have SDRs? Should you have AEs? How many activities should they be doing? Other companies, they have a team already that's not meeting their expectations, and then we'll come in, we'll identify some of the the bottlenecks in the process, and we'll help solve those problems with them. So I would consider our organization probably either in the advisory or consulting space. We have a very structured program to help them get to whatever the results they're looking for, which is typically a revenue target. But ultimately, it comes down to how do you build a team that's going to be able to generate consistent results for you that you can rely on. And that's really the world that we live in.
So why do you start this? So initially, obviously, like, because you have the skill to start this business, but then why did you went into sales and SaaS first? Like, what was the thing that pushed you to like, look, SaaS and sales, or was it you stumble upon it? Like, why that? Why SaaS sales?
Yeah, it's a good question. I absolutely stumbled upon it. It was an accident. I was pretending to go to college. So I was going to a junior college, and my real passion was stand-up comedy. So I actually dropped out of college and I did stand-up. And, from when I started stand-up to when I stopped, I had been doing stand-up around 5 years. And what happened was I got a job selling gym memberships at a local gym. And I turned out to be pretty good at it. It was great because I could work at the gym during the day, and then at night I would do stand-up. And what happened was my boss at the gym ended up going to a company called Intuit. So they make QuickBooks and TurboTax. And he said, like, hey, I can get you an interview over here. I can't guarantee you they'll hire you. You're also kind of supposed to have a college degree, but I think if you do really well on the cold call, then they'll give you a shot. So that's what happened. I did a mock cold call. I did pretty well at it. I practiced a ton beforehand, and they gave me a chance. And I was an SDR doing cold calls there, got promoted to an account executive. I ended up writing a book on how to be an effective sales development rep, which is the role that cold calls, send cold emails, etc. That book went on to be an Amazon bestseller. I started running SDR teams and then inside sales teams. And that's how my career really got launched off. But yeah, absolutely, totally by accident.
I love it. I love it. And I think what I got from that story was, first, you're doing stand-up comedy. When you're doing stand-up comedy, you're fearless. Like because you can't have fear because you are in front there, like almost like either making a fool of yourself or making a fool of a story or something. But it's a setting that you can't have fear. So I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, you took that, like, I don't have fear, I'm standing comedy. Then, okay, I'm going to go into sales, because the only reason to not go into sales, it's because of like that fear of asking people money on all these different things. But if you don't have that fear, right? Like, is that correct? Am I correct there?
Yeah, I'll add a little nuance here. I don't know if it's the absence of fear. It's being able to manage that fear. How do you behave when you are nervous to do something? Because there's plenty of times where you're on stage, your first joke bombs and you're like, oh gosh, this is going to be terrible. It doesn't feel good. It's incredibly uncomfortable. But if you're able, in the face of fear, to actually be able to accomplish things that you say you're going to accomplish, usually you're going to be successful. I rarely come across somebody who has the ability to perform under pressure who isn't able to reach a level of success.
I absolutely love that. And I cannot agree more with that, because I talk about this differently, and I guess I didn't put two and two together there, but that's why I ask you, like, is that, and it's not being fearless, it's being able to operate when you're like, when under pressure, like, oh my God, like I something is happening, like and be able to operate from that level. It's tough. And when you be able to do that, then, like you said, like, that's how you can be successful. If you can put up with failures, with a bomb, like, a joke bombing or stuff like that. So basically like a mini failure, right? So that's
I can add something real quick here that I think is important for people to realize is when you are under pressure and you feel like your back's against the wall, what often happens with people is you have two ways to respond to it. One way is you're the person that doubles down and is comfortable under that pressure and is willing to execute and, perform very well under that pressure. And you double down, you say, look, it doesn't matter if I'm able to achieve my goal or not. Just because I'm afraid, I'm not going to let that stop me from trying. And I'll give 100% effort, even at the risk of not accomplishing what I'm looking to accomplish. The other option is you actually give 50% effort. You go, I'm really nervous here. Let me just do 50% effort. And I'll guarantee that I actually fail. That's guaranteed because I'm only giving 50% effort. But when I fail, at least I can say I didn't try. And a lot of people choose that option because it protects their ego. And what I find is the people are the most successful, the ones that are able to put their ego aside, risk the failure, and they typically have a lot better results long term. Even if they didn't succeed that one time, the next time, the third time, the fourth time, they end up figuring it out because they have that core fundamental belief that if I risk failure and I put everything on the line, I will be able to accomplish something great, even if they've had that experience and ended up failing.
That were some strong words right there. Thanks for sharing that. And I never thought about like that. Like, okay, like you either do 50% or you do it like all in. And you're right about the people that are successful is the people that just went 100%. Fail, try again, fail, try again. Like it's gonna happen. Like if there's anybody in the audience here that is just thinking about entrepreneurship or just kind of starting out, they haven't even got their feet wet that much yet, you will fail at times. Like there's only the few, very, very few lucky ones that get lucky and something just pops quick. And then still after that, things can happen. So like it's something that is as an entrepreneur, it's something that I've learned, and I hate losing. And feeling like I'm failing is like losing. So I have to rewire my brain to then it's like, oh, this is part of you're winning in the big picture. You're just not like, it doesn't feel like it right now, but it's like I have to commit completely, and that's what I'm doing. Like I'm taking risk. I'm doing as much as I can. Look, it just starting becoming a podcast host, like when I didn't have any experience in my second language and all those things, right? But I'm just going. I love it now, and I'm being able to communicate so much better. So I completely resonate with that.
That's awesome.
So let's go to an advice. Do you have any advice for business owners in general, or to your younger self if you were to restart?
Yeah, I mean, back to what we were talking about earlier is I think having some kind of marketable skill is really important. Oftentimes we glorify entrepreneurship, and the reality is it's not a lot of glory. You get there at a certain point, but especially early on, there's a lot of ups and downs and challenges, and it takes a really strong mindset to be able to get through all of that. And if you have a core expertise that you can fall back on, which helps you build your business, that is incredibly helpful. So for me, it's sales. I understand sales very well. I understand how to run sales teams. So when things get tough, I know at the very least, I can go and get more customers, right? Which is a nice skill to have. And if you don't have that kind of expertise, it becomes really challenging to be an entrepreneur because you're going to run into things that are new to you that you're going to have to learn and figure out, and you're going to be able to do it. But then as your company starts growing and things become more complicated, it becomes a lot more difficult. So I would focus first on having some kind of skill that you're uniquely good at, or at least you're in the top 1% of people that you know at, because that's really a good foundation for building a real business.
I completely agree. And I might miss some, but some of what I have on top of my head, sales, super powerful. You learn how to sell, then you will always have a job. I mean, you can always make money because you know how to sell. Just you can just pick the vehicle and then sell, right?
Right.
Copywriting, powerful one. You'll be able, because that's like, it's selling with words. It's selling with words. And so those two things really for me are like the biggest. And then if you're able to be very savvy with like design and marketing too in general, right? Like marketing obviously is a very big thing, but then if you're good at maybe getting attention through social media a certain way, or getting attention from people through messaging, like it's just having something that you either are able to get attention, are able to just generate more money with money too, is obviously that, like investing, and that takes discipline. So there's different skills, obviously. I just kind of wanted to mention some of them right there. So yeah, just I'm gonna go to my next question, which is, you have a challenge that could be as recent as yesterday or when you were starting out this journey that taught you something that you think is worth sharing with the audience?
Yeah, well, the ton, you learn stuff every single day, I feel like, but definitely week over week, you're learning a lot of things. And the truth is everyone's entrepreneur journey is very different. And you can meet with a lot of mentors, people who have been around the block for a long time, and they're going to be able to give you advice. And then you'll meet with another mentor. They'll give you totally different advice. So it becomes difficult when you're growing a company, because you need to be able to rely on certain people, that you also need to be able to make decisions yourself. And I can share a real story of some difficult times we went through about a year ago, where in 1 month we lost 40% of our revenue, which is a really big deal, especially when you have a lot of people in the organization. You have to, you're paying people, they rely on you for them to be able to support their families. It's a really big deal. So we had a month where we lost 40% of our revenue. Scary. I mean, talk about not being able to sleep. We couldn't, we didn't have enough. We were in the red all of a sudden, right? Now, one thing you learn as you start a business is sometimes something happens, but the effects of it you don't feel for 3 months, because you still are collecting on some cash of the customers, right? So especially if you're in B2B, like there's usually a delay from when you get payments. So when this happened, it was really intense, and we felt a lot of urgency, and we knew that we're not going to feel the effects of that for 3 months down the line because of accounts receivable and whatnot. So immediately we kick into sales mode, which is what you do when you lose a bunch of customers. And what we did was we pulled the whole servicing team. There's 3 people on the servicing team. There's myself. And we just started prospecting every day, doing cold outreach, just cold calls, cold emails, messaging people on LinkedIn. And within 2 weeks, we got got 50% of the revenue back. Within 2 months, we were further than we were before. And a lot of that revenue that we got back came from our outbound efforts. So sometimes you have to do things you're not comfortable doing, and you need other people on your team to be on board to be able to help you. And I feel like if I didn't have mentors who taught me to be a little bit more transparent, I could have tried to hide that fact and not get the servicing team involved, which would have been a big mistake. So we ended up being okay. And it actually worked even better than maybe if it didn't happen. And we learned a lot from that, especially with accounts receivable. At this point, I think we had 150 grand in accounts receivable, and we just had a problem collecting on it. So you learn a whole bunch of stuff, and then you lose some customers. You realize, I need to collect cash. And now our accounts receivable is much, much lower. So you end up fixing certain problems that come up, but sometimes you need a little kick in the ass before you do that.
Yeah. That's yeah, for me has been like roller coaster. So I understand that. And we've been like that, like, okay, everybody, team meeting, this is what we got to do. We just got to sell. We just got to go. Right. And finding like that's why very important to have a good support group, a good team that you can rely on. And that's something my priorities right now are very like solidifying my foundation of my branding and my team. So then like it's just putting fuel to the fire, because I know that the capabilities that we have are amazing. So it's just making sure that if we want to be like 7-8 figure and on, right, we want to have something legendary, something that is actually full of impact. For that, we have to have a very unified vision that we're all working towards it, and we all like taking care of each other, keeping each other accountable. That's why culture it's so important. So that's my priority right now, because I know what the work that we can do is just being able to be unified, so that way that we stay efficient, and then the customer experience, they feel like so great because of the culture is so great. So I agree with that, and that was impressive for you to be able to have the team to be able to pull that off too. It's like, damn, 40% off the revenue. Let's go. Balls to the wall and outbound, and just do whatever we need to do, and got it. So I'm happy that you're able to do that. That's very impressive.
Yeah. And shout out to the team, right? The team really rallied, and we all worked together. We set an hour on our calendar. We all hopped on. We would do prospecting together. And it's important to have some good people around you. And to go back to something we talked about earlier, sales being one of my core competency was really helpful in that situation. And that's why a lot of young folks that have interest in entrepreneurship, I recommend them going and getting a sales job and spend at least 4 or 5 years in sales. And you're going to learn so much. And when it comes time for you to create your own business, you're going to know the most important part, which is how to get customers. So many people struggle with that, but if you're in sales, it comes second nature.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. It seems like that's a very repeatable thing, but I guess is hopefully people listening to this that get like sales, right? If you keep listening to it, it's because it's super important. So that's something that I recommend too. I mean, if you have to get a job and you want to learn high income skills, go get a sales job. Start low, keep high, like you did, right? Like you cold call, you practiced this, you killed it, you got inside here. Now you learn all this, and now look, you have your own thing going on because of it, because you took that chance and you took it seriously, which is a big thing. Not just not try, do, go. Even if you fail, okay, but like you said, just go 100% and fail, absolutely. But yeah, like that. This has been very powerful. You're very good at articulated, and the things that you've said have been very powerful. I know that there's gonna be people like, damn, that's those stories are like, wow, like that's impressive, and if he did it, like, we can do it too, right? So that's the thing that I like about this, is we're all humans, where there's things happening, and is the only thing is like we're taking imperfect action, we're taking risk, we're going, right? If you're not in the entrepreneurial journey but you want to, you just have to accept that, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just the last thing or last two things is I wanna get, what do you think are like the biggest takeaways based on this conversation? Could be something that maybe you didn't say yet, or just kind of want to emphasize something based on this conversation.
Yeah, I think the big one is if you're early in your entrepreneur journey or before you even start a company, think about what skills that are going to be able to help you when you do create a company, because you don't have to create one now. You can create one in a couple of years, not a big deal. If people put a lot of urgency on when you create a business, it doesn't matter. You can create it whenever you want. The market is going to be there, I promise you. So I usually encourage people to learn something that's going to help you, whether it be marketing, whether it be sales, right? Learn something that's going to help you when you actually start your company. And if you already have a company and maybe your sales organization, or if you're running all the sales yourself, maybe it's not going as well as you want to. Well, there's a reason why. It's because you don't understand, or you're not competent enough to run a sales org or to do the sales yourself. And good thing for you, that's a learnable skill. We weren't born knowing how to sell. So if you can take some time and really focus on improving your craft as a salesperson, how you structure your sales process, how you measure your salespeople's performance, what you're going to find is you're going to be a lot more successful, and they're going to be a lot more consistent as well. Because a lot of times entrepreneurs, we get anxiety around revenue, and new sales is a big driver of that. So having that kind of competency is, I think, really important.
Definitely. I accepted that fact when I was starting out. I started like investing on learning the skills first. So I started learning about lead generation, SEO, and PR. So then PR was the thing that really stand out the most for me. That's why I committed to PR, and I created a PR firm. But from learning the skills first, of okay, I have something of value. I learned the skills. Now the next thing was like, oh, I know how to do things. Now I need to know how to sell it. Right. Yeah. And I prioritize that. So I just gained the skill on how to do like lead generation, SEO, and PR. And then I was okay, I have the skills. I committed to PR. This is my one thing. I started creating my avatar, but now it's like, okay, I have all these things. Now I just gotta go and sell. Right. I gotta go on a prospect, how to follow up, how to talk to people, because I thought that because I am a social person, I thought that, well, I talk to people all the time, to strangers and everything. So like, like sales should be easy. No, it's not. It's completely different. It's not a normal conversation for sure. And that's something that I started learning about that. And actually it helped me to become a better communicator in life now, because now you learn how to say more with less words and be more impactful on every word that you say. So that's my 2 cents on that part.
Yeah, I love it. I totally agree.
Yeah. So last thing would be, I know there's gonna be a lot of people saying, you know what, like he looks cool, he seems like to know about sales, maybe they need sales. The many ways that they can be interested in you. So how can people find you?
You would find me, I'm most active on LinkedIn. So if you look up Kyle Vamvouris on LinkedIn, our website is vouris.com. That's VOURIS.com. We have a ton of free content on there about how to build sales teams, how to write scripts. Or we have a YouTube channel with a ton of videos on how to cold call, how to send cold email. So you see a lot of content there. And if you want to dive in, even if you never talk to me, you can find a lot of free content on our website and on our YouTube that I think will point you in the right direction.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the best thing and that's why I like the podcast too, because it's, you don't have to even talk to me. You don't have to become a client. I'm putting content out there. I'm putting content through publications, to podcasts, to TV events. So just if you want to learn without having to even try to get on a call or feel like you're I don't want to even do PR right now. I don't even know if I want to. Right? There's content there, so I'm glad that you have that. You're like, and I saw your website, very clean and everything. So definitely, it's enjoyable and aesthetically pleasing. So like just go check it out and learn a little bit about it.
Yeah, just go look at it.
Yeah, perfect. So thank you for taking the time to come here. I think this was a very good conversation. We can never talk enough about sales. So it's something that like I've done it so many times and I still learning, right? Like, I mean, I've been in this like just a little over 2 years. So obviously it's not like, oh, I've done it 20 years. And even if you've done it 20 years, like there's always things happening and changing and the priorities of people and the markets and everything.
Right.
So, as long as you're a student forever and you're serious about sales and developing high income skills and adding value to people, the entrepreneur journey will be for you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for having me. I've really enjoyed the conversation. The pleasure's mine.
Thank you. Thanks, Kyle. So this was Kyle and Foo signing off.
Thanks for listening to Moments with Foo with your host, Foo. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we will see you on the next episode.